Cardinal George and Jimmy Lago, the Chancellor for the Archdiocese of Chicago, were part of a small group that was allowed to make a brief pastoral visit to Cuba in June. They said it was a unique learning experience.
It's a place where they haven't been able to build a Catholic church for 43 years. And so when they start a parish, and it's very hard to do that because for a long time they weren't permitted to ordain priests, or just a priest had to die before another priest could be ordained. They had numerous clauses, 200 priests in all of Cuba. Now they have a little more freedom since John Paul II went, and so they can ordain some priests, and when they do, they give him a parish. But they don't give him any money, and he'll never have a parish church, and he'll never have a school, and they have no Catholic universities or Catholic hospitals or Catholic newspapers. So it's all relationships. And so they took me to a number of these new parishes on the outskirts of the city, and it was fascinating to talk to the people. They gather together, and they talk about Jesus and their relationship to one another in Christ, and then the way in which they're a leaven in society. They reach out to others. They have nothing to give to anyone except the faith and the truth. But that's itself very, very important in a closed society like communist Cuba.
Do people take a personal risk in making their faith public?
Well, they do, but less so than before. It used to be if you weren't a member of the party, you couldn't be obviously a member of the government, so you couldn't be a politician. But also you couldn't be, if you were a believer, a lawyer or a teacher or a journalist. Any public life was pretty much restricted. That's a little bit better now, but not too much. So yeah, they take a risk. That's why the people are used to that, however. When they talk in groups, they know that somebody from the group is going to tell the government what was said. I asked at the end of our conversation, about an hour or so, in one of these small places, will the government know what was said here? And they said, of course.
Yeah. Well, I know that one of those who accompanied you was our Chancellor, Jimmy Lago, and we caught up with him recently in his office and asked him about his perspectives on the trip. Let's take a look.
I think the trip to the parish without walls, without a building, we tend to think in terms of you get into a religious environment where you go into the church on Sundays or other days. There's statues, there's an altar, there's history, there's other people there. Some of the groups that we met, especially those outside of the actual city of Santiago, basically had to create a faithful and worshiping community without all of those symbols. And so the intensity and the focus and the inspiration that I got out of that trip and those conversations was just immense. A lot of the trappings that I assume are necessary for my practice of the faith really aren't. And so I think I was impressed. I was impressed. I was educated. I was inspired, really, by the faith of the local folks. This is our common church. This isn't the Cuban church and the American church. This is our common faith. And their ability to sort of continue to maintain that and strengthen and deepen, despite some really difficult local circumstances with the government and the poverty and some of the other difficulties they have down there, is very impressive.
We thank both Cardinal George and Chancellor Lago for sharing their thoughts on their trip to Cuba.